In this video, we're going to look at the function operations of addition, subtraction, multiplication, and division. And we're going to see that these operations act very much the way they do with just numbers. Early in school, kindergarten, first grade, you started learning about adding numbers. And then after a little bit, you learned about subtracting numbers, and then multiplying, and then finally dividing. So those are operations that you're familiar with. What we're going to look at in this unit is if we're given functions. For instance, if we're given f of x equals 2x plus 7 and g of x equals 3x squared minus x plus 1. So we're given those functions. And remember, the name of the function, for instance, f or g, identifies which rule we're looking at. So if I wanted to find a third function, f plus g of x, so this part here is the name of the function, f plus g. This part of x just tells me that it's a function with independent variable x. If I wanted to find that function, f plus g of x, I would just add f of x plus g of x. So I would take what f of x does, which is 2x plus 7, plus what g of x is, 3x squared minus x plus 1. And then I would combine like terms. 3x squared, 2x minus x is x, plus 7 plus 1 is 8. So that tells me that this new function, f plus g of x, is equal to 3x squared plus x plus 8. So if I wanted to find a function value of f plus g, let's say f plus g of negative 2, this first piece tells me where I'm plugging in, which function am I plugging into, and then the second piece here of negative 2 tells me what number I'm replacing x with. So every x in my function, f plus g, is replaced with negative 2. So I have 3 times negative 2 squared plus negative 2 plus 8. Be careful if you do this on your calculator, because if you press negative 2 squared on your calculator, it's going to tell you that it's negative 4, because what the calculator will do is square the 2 and then put the negative back on. So if you're going to square a negative number on your calculator, be sure to put it in parentheses. But I'm going to just go ahead and do this by hand. Negative 2 squared is 4, minus 2 plus 8, which is 12, minus 6, which is 6. When I'm finding f plus g of x, I'm finding a rule with x in it. When I'm finding f plus g of negative 2, I'm plugging in a number, and my answer will also be a number. I can also find the function f minus g of x. And I'm going to do something similar. I'm going to take the 2x plus 7, the f function, which is first, subtract, and here I have to be careful because the g of x function, 3x squared minus x plus 1, is all being subtracted, so I have to put parentheses. And then that would give me minus 3x squared plus x minus 1 by distributing my negative. And then combining like terms, I have the new function that f minus g of x is equal to negative 3x squared plus 3x plus 6. To do multiplication, f times g, sometimes that's written with f and g just next to each other. That implies multiplication of x. And sometimes that's written with a closed dot in between. So either the two letters next to each other or a small closed dot both mean multiplication. And that's going to be f of x times g of x. Now notice in this example here, as in the previous ones, this parentheses here around the x and around the f times g are the function notation. They are not multiplication. The dot or the two letters close to each other means that I'm multiplying the two functions. So if I multiply f of x, 2x plus 7, times g of x, 3x squared minus x plus 1, this parentheses implies multiplication. So you have to be careful and know by context that the pairs of parentheses here mean function notation and the pairs of parentheses here mean multiplication. And to do multiplication of two polynomials, I'm going to take 2x and multiply it by each term here, and then take 7 and multiply it by each term here. You go ahead, pause your video, do that, distribute the 2x to each term, distribute the 7 to each term, and then combine like terms, and then restart the video. And I have 2x times 3x squared is 6x cubed. 2x times minus x is minus 2x squared. 7 times 3x squared. I'm sorry, 2x, it's harder to say it than it is to do it. 2x times 1 is plus 2x. Now distributing the 7, I have 21x squared minus 7x plus 7, and combining like terms. I have that f times g of x is equal to 6x cubed plus 19x squared minus 5x plus 7, a new function. So at this point, we have found, we were given the function f of x, given the function g of x. We found the function f plus g of x, that's a third function. We found the function f minus g of x, that's a fourth function. And a fifth function, f times g of x. So these are all new and different functions. And we can use division to find our sixth new function, f divided by g of x. And it's important to notice which term is on, or which function is on the top and which is on the bottom. Order matters here. So we can put our f function in the numerator and our g function in the denominator. And that is our new function. There's really no division that we can do here. And we certainly cannot do any canceling because of the plus signs and minus signs in between. We can only cancel if everything is multiplication. So we have found a sixth new function. Now, why is it important to understand about addition, subtraction, multiplication, and division of functions? In the real world, quite often, you can find new functions using those four operations. For instance, suppose we have a revenue function, R of x, of producing some product, of selling some product, revenue is 10x. And then let's say we have a cost function of the cost of producing some product as 3x squared plus x minus 15. And so, or plus 15, I'm sorry, plus 15. So if we wanted to find, if this is revenue and this is cost, and we want to find a profit function. Well, profit is revenue minus cost. How much money the company's bringing in minus how much money the company spends is the profit. So we can find a profit function by subtracting my revenue function, 10x, minus my cost function, distribute my negative, and then combine like terms. And then if I wanted to find the profit of producing and selling, for instance, 5 units, I could plug in and find the profit from producing and selling 5 units. And I would see that if I were producing and selling 5 units, I'm still not making any money. I'm still with a negative profit. In our next lesson, we're going to be looking at a different operation, which you might not be quite as familiar with, called composition of functions.